Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the First Class, Second Place podcast. I'm your host, Jason Enrique, and we got a returning first-class guest and a brand new first-class guest up in the building today. But before we continue, I want to remind everybody that we're live in Braveview Studios in Garfield, New Jersey. Shout out to Najee behind the glass. What is going on, Najee? Welcome to Braveview family, brother. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, as I said, we have a returning guest and we also have a new guest. So ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest guests in history of First Class, Second Place, Starborn is back in the building.
Hello.
And also introducing Jay Yarber in the building. What is going on, Bill?
Hey.
What's going on, Jason? Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
The pleasure's on mine. The pleasure's on mine. So Starborn, good to see you again. Third time. That's what they call a hat trick in hockey. We're doing a hat trick right now.
You know? You feel me?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so obviously we had you on the first episode, great conversation. Had you on the second one, another great conversation, and we introduced you to a new segment. And I'm bringing yet another new segment. Mm-hmm. This is going to be from the first part. It's called Favorite Things. It's kind of a tongue-in-cheek way to, you know, how podcasts used to be or still are, where they're like, oh, what's your favorite dish? What's your favorite this, that, so on and so forth. And it's kind of like corny, kind of cheesy, but let's just get that out of the way. And it's also a good way for the audience to recognize who you guys are. It's a little bit of an icebreaker.
Perfect.
Right. We okay, guys? All right, cool. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Favorite things. You guys can answer whenever you want. Favorite movie?
The Notebook.
The Matrix.
Favorite TV show?
Ooh. Oh, God. A Different World.
Okay, good one.
Okay. Shit, I got so many. Favorite TV show. I have so many. Off the top of my head, I'd say Peaky Blinders.
Peaky Blinders. I haven't seen that yet. I got to check that out. Favorite Italian dish?
Ooh. Salmon piccata.
Salmon piccata. Interesting.
I had her salmon piccata, so I'd have to say salmon.
Chef Rain, is that what we're doing now?
You know, it's my hands. I'm an artist. I create anything.
Favorite vacation spot?
Santo Domingo.
Yeah, I'd say Santo Domingo.
Santo Domingo, nice. All right. Let's see. Your favorite day of the week?
Saturday.
Monday.
Okay, not a lot of people like Monday. That's actually refreshing. Your favorite sports teams?
Jets.
Jets, Mets, Knicks.
Jets, Mets, Knicks. Oh, so you're a happy guy with the Mets right now.
Yes.
Oh my God. And I'm a Knicks fan too. So
Yeah.
let's hope for a good season.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's see. Your favorite alcoholic drink?
Ooh, mojito. And specifically the passion fruit one.
Passion fruit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a vodka guy. Just vodka.
Vodka, anything? All right.
Ginger ale, depending on the time of the year. It could be pineapple juice, cranberry juice.
Nice. Favorite kind
He
of vodka?
switches it up.
Belvedere.
Ooh, fancy. I like that.
And I like Chopin too.
Okay, all right.
Chopin.
Chopin. Yeah, I used to be a
Everyone-
bartender, so I know how the pronunciations go. All right, and finally, your favorite thing about each other?
Oh wow, there's so many. I love the way he calms me. Just like with his hugs. He just calms me.
I like the fact that she's patient.
Big one.
Yeah.
All right, that's pretty good. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Starborn and Jay Yarber. All right, so the reason I had you guys on here, specifically you, Jay, especially, is because as we're constantly recording this right now, as it's constantly constituted right now, I don't know if I said that right, excuse me, but today is October 10th. So while this is going to be in the future, while it's going to be released later, at the end of the day, today is National Mental Health Day, and anybody who knows me and watches the show and know what I'm about on social media and everything knows that I'm a huge mental health advocate. You and I, Starborn, have talked privately about our personal struggles, even before when you were with this great gentleman right here and everything. You have actually and I have spoken man to man about certain things and certain struggles that we've gone through, and I think that's a great talking point, because I have spoken about this on my show before, but I feel like it's a conversation that still needs to be brought up, because while we do care for all mental health all around the spectrum, I also feel like men's mental health doesn't get the shine that it deserves as much as women does. And nothing to take away from women, because God knows that you girls have been through some shit in your lives. You know, everybody has a different story, but I just want to shed awareness that, hey, us men, we feel too. We go through it as well. So So I know that you and I have actually spoken before, Jay, and one of the things that I feel like kind of gets tossed around these days is one of the big words that everybody seems to be saying now. It's a buzzword, is narcissism, and a lot of times people don't really even know what that definition of the word is. Like, if somebody's just being a typical asshole, or they're stabbing somebody in the back, like, oh, that's just their narcissistic qualities, or they're a narcissist. But there's a lot more deeper meaning to that word, and it just can't be just thrown around like that.
Absolutely.
It's just become a buzzword. However, I know that in the case of you personally, you've actually experienced that kind of trauma before. Like, you had spoken before about narcissistic abuse in your past relationships and how it's had an effect on you. But I feel like at the same time, you're a gentleman that has been able to go through the peaks and valleys. You've been through the fire. You've been able to come out on top, and I see that you're much happier now. But it didn't come at a price. So I just feel like maybe that's a good talking point there as far as this conversation is concerned.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. The thing is, men never want to see themselves as victims. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm a strong man. You know, you never want to see yourself as a victim. So to be in a relationship and think you're being abused by a narcissist, it becomes far-fetched until you start digging in a little bit more and a little bit more, trying to gain knowledge of what a narcissist is. And you're taking self-inventory, you're looking at your relationships, and you're trying to figure out what is going wrong here. And you just have to dig I just dug a little deeper. And sometimes you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you finally end that narcissistic relationship. Mm-hmm. And a very good friend of mine told me that, you know, you're never going to get away from that relationship. Right. There's one or two things that's going to happen. Either you're going to get taken away by police, or she's going to get taken away by police. And lo and behold, she was 100% absolutely correct.
Right. Now, obviously, no names dropped here on this show and everything, but I want to go a little bit back before. Like, is this something that you experienced firsthand, or do you feel like after some reflection that this is something that you've actually dealt with even way before relationships was even to the picture? Like, maybe experience from a family member, friends, colleagues, any of that sort of ilk?
Well, and honestly, I haven't really thought back that far. I really started focusing on just myself and the things that I've gone through, the things that I've compartmentalized. You know, like every Sunday, what I used to do, I used to call it taking my soul to the laundromat. I'd sit down Sunday, I'd go someplace quiet, and I just think about all the things that are troubling my mind, and I would just cry and just let it go. And I wouldn't let anybody see me. I wouldn't let my kids see me. I wouldn't let my significant other. I never told my friends about that. Like, even now, being a victim of a narcissist, the thing is, I think we're harder on ourselves. Because you saw what was going on and you continued. So, and you knew something was wrong, but you just couldn't put your finger on it.
Right. Now, if you don't mind me asking, what's your background as far as like ethnic, nationality, what have you?
Well, my mom is half black. She has Irish, English. My dad is half black as well.
Okay.
He has family that's American Indian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the only reason that I bring that up is because one thing that I've brought up several times on the show, and even Starborn knows about this, is that when it comes to a certain, like minority groups, whether it's blacks, Hispanics, whatever the case may be that is in a minority group, there's a stigma that affects us as far as like not being able to talk about our problems. There was once upon a time where therapy was thought as taboo. You know, like if I told people that I was seeing a professional, they would think that I should have been in the quote unquote loony bin, as they would put it. You know, they would think that something is wrong with you. Yeah. I even remember there was a time when, when I was a young kid and my parents, specifically my mother, couldn't afford to send me to a professional. So she did the next best thing, which is talk to the school counselor. You know, that's one of the things that they're there for, apparently. And I just remember that every single Monday and Wednesday, I had to be taken out of a certain class. I forget which subject it was, but I was basically given permission to get out of that class, basically spend a half day on Mondays and Wednesdays to go speak to somebody. And everybody was always wondering, like, yo, why does he always have to leave class early? What's going on? And I couldn't even open up because I didn't want people to tell them that I had to see somebody because of some things that was going on in my personal life. So even then, even though I was seeking professional help, from the public school aspect, I was still ashamed to talk about what I was going through. And that starts off from a very early age. And I think that I've gotten better at it now, but there's still those moments where I feel like I don't want to drown anybody in what's going on with my shit, because I got to take care of it. And at the end of the day, I tend to think to myself, do people really care about my problems at all? And why am I wasting my time and breath on it?
Right. Yeah. I can understand why you feel that way.
I think I can definitely see. I felt you when you said that, like about the whole school thing, and you were like you had taken out, because I went through something similar like that in high school, and that shit, like, oh my God, I hated it. And coming from a Dominican background,
Right.
especially the islands, it's like psychiatrists, hell no, that's, crazy people. Like, oh, and 90% of America needs a fucking therapist. Like, literally, everyone
I kind of tongue-in-cheekily say, kind of a joke, but not really, that some of y'all need to get off social media and go get some real actual help. One thing that I actually thought was pretty funny, and I'll give myself credit, pat on the back about it, was I actually wrote down on social media not long ago, like, remember the days when people write down things in a notebook and be mad when people would read them? Now we live in a time where people put it out there on the world and get mad when people don't read them.
Wow. Yeah.
Because think about it, I was a journal guy for a very long time, and I would get mad if somebody was going through my shit, snooping through my shit, and my family did that.
Right.
And I've also been guilty of this, where I just felt like putting my whole shit out in the open. Like, I would just type on Facebook on what I'm feeling, and like I would get like no reactions. I'm like, is anybody even paying attention to what I'm saying? And I think that we've all been through that at one point in our lives.
100%, 100%. Even with this, my journey that I've been going through for the past couple of months, on my TikTok page, I put breakup due to infidelity, trying to put myself back together with self-care and self-love. I'm getting phone calls from my kids going, yo, Pop, what are you doing? You that's way too out there. Take that off. And I'm just like, so sometimes you got to just open yourself up.
And that's actually kind of the reason what prompted me to reach out to you to see if you wanted to have a conversation on my show, because I feel like I did that indirectly as well at times, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't know, I may be wrong here, but this guy, he seems to have it all together. He's pretty successful. He's got a wonderful woman on his side. He's got beautiful kids and everything, but there's still something that tells me that he's screaming out for help in some way, shape, or form. And I could be wrong, but what's the harm in asking? And ultimately, I think that was the case, and that's why we had, discussions here and there, why I wanted you to be open and honest about, what you've gone through, to share to anybody else that may be going through what you're going through or have been through.
Yeah, I was, when I found out that you did want me on the show, I was very excited. Obviously, I was nervous too, but I just felt like I wish the stuff that I know now about narcissism and being in a toxic relationship, I wish some of that stuff was out there a little bit more, or maybe it was out there and I wasn't paying attention to it, because on my feed now, that's mostly everything I see is about narcissistic behavior.
What were some of the things that you personally realized that these were the traits and behavior that you had gone through before, and how did you work your way out of it? Or are you still working your way out of it?
I'm still working my way out of it, and a lot of it is just taking self-inventory. Like, I'm going back sometimes and I'm looking at messages that I sent or messages that I received, and I'm reading these messages and I'm looking at the things that I'm saying, and I'm like, man, I am not a bad person. There's times where I said no. I've tried to get out of the relationship a few times. You know what I mean? It gets to a point where you have to start having some self-worth and setting boundaries. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I'm also the type of person that, based on my experience, that it just doesn't come from relationships. I mean, I've had friendships where they have caused me to have the after effects of their narcissistic behavior. And in turn, I feel like has allowed me to feel like I'm not a good person or I'm not worthy. And what's really interesting about narcissism, or people that are narcissistic, especially if they're professionally diagnosed by a professional, is that they're very charming and they're very smart. You know, they're able to lure you in. And one of the first things that they do is love bombing. And I've actually seen it. I've seen it with my own two eyes with some of the closest friends. And I'm here to tell you that one thing that can be really shameful is you know, I'm a good connector of people, and sometimes I'll, you know, have people meet and, you know, they work together and so on and so forth. And then because they're so good at love bombing and being so charming that they're able to sway people and making you think that you're the problem. It's happened to me on several occasions, and, you know, even as much as recent.
Yeah.
And that's, but I think based on my research and being smarter, and also not repeating the same mistakes that I made prior to other abusive relationships that I've been in before, where I was, you know, or I was affected. I think it just made me aware. And, you know, the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. And that's when I realized I had to wake up and change some things. And most importantly, I feel like I had to be okay with the fact that what I believe is the truth and not what everybody else thinks is the truth.
Exactly. Oof, that's good.
That's strong.
Believe me, it took a lot of work, and like you, I'm always a work in progress. You know, I have my days where I'm not doing well, and I have my days where I'm soaring. And luckily today, I'm the latter part. So
nice.
Yeah, but again, with you, Starborn. So I want to tap in a little bit more with you as well, as far as that's concerned. So you said that, you know, when I was telling that story about school, and then afterwards you could relate to that. So how did you realize that you were able to work on yourself? Like, what were the first steps into working to yourself in order to become the better person that you are now?
Well, for me, it all started in high school. My parents were divorcing, and that hit me really hard. And
I know what that feels like.
You know, basically school was my only safe space, because home there was always fighting, and it was just not like a good place for me to be mentally. And one day in school, something happened. Some gossip was said about me that I had said that, mind you, I'm like 70 pounds. I was diagnosed with anorexia nervosa and clinical depression at the time. So, you know, I was allowed to eat in class when everybody else wasn't. I would leave the class early. So that's why I was like, wow, like, I definitely see how you felt. It was really hard. It was really tough. But I feel like, you know, the school obviously handled it, and I was put into a place where they helped me mentally, because I went into shock. There was like this whole thing where this guy came in the middle of the cafeteria and literally spit on my face. Yeah. And I like climbed on top of him and started stabbing him with a plastic fork. Because I lost all of my shit collectively. And then it was just like, I had to, you know, I had to go through that. And, you know, that's the first time that my parents were forced to have me see a doctor, because I'm from Dominican. No, you don't need that. You just need sleep. You just need to eat right. Stop eating food from the streets. Like, you know, it'll be something like that. And, you know, it was the first time where my parents were forced to get me help outside of their advice. And I learned a lot of tools that to this day still help me as an adult, because it's hard. It's hard to live in this world, to maintain your identity, to stay true to yourself, and to speak your truth without, you know, I couldn't have been able to say this out loud, let alone on a podcast, you know, years ago. So shout outs to me, because that's growth. You know, and you know, and that's why I was so happy, and I wanted him to come on the show, because I'm like, you know, when you talk about things, it's like almost like you're releasing them.
Absolutely.
You know, holding things inside, they fester. And you know, I think that what he went through can help a lot of other men, because you're right. It's always, women do go, you know, experience narcissism, in my opinion, more than men, but that doesn't take away the fact that it should be more talked about in the male population as well.
Right, yeah. You know, and it's funny how you mentioned that about, you were mentioning about, I just lost my train of thought, but the point that I'm getting at is that the after effects that it has, with the anorexia. So it kind of tapped into me, because for me, it was pretty much the opposite. I feel like I was overeating and basically using food as a way to, you know, give peace to myself when I was told that, you know, I wasn't worthy enough or whatever the case may be. Or it was almost like reverse psychology, I guess, when somebody was saying that I was too heavy, and then afterwards my remedy was to go eat a whole pie of pizza or something like that.
Yeah.
And then just making it worse. And I don't know if that's just, I don't know if that was done by design or that's just me trying to I just needed to build a stronger mindset. But I get where you're coming from as far as that's concerned.
Thanks.
Now, Jay, going back to what, you know, you said you have, how many kids do you have, if you don't mind me asking?
I was 4.
You have 4 kids, okay.
2 boys, 2 girls.
Oh, perfect match. I like that. I don't know their ages right now. I don't know if I even want to ask you that. If you want to keep that private, but I think I think that they're old enough to know, based on what you told me about the social media thing, that they're able to see what you may go through. And we also worry about generational curses. Do you sometimes ever see a little bit of yourself in your children, and then you want to make sure that they don't fall into the same pitfalls that you fell into before?
I do, but I've given all my children an opportunity. Look, here's my playbook. These are the mistakes that I made. Okay, you can avoid those mistakes if you want my guidance. But some of us, we have to learn the hard way. We have to learn on our own. Experience is a better teacher. So I give my kids the choice. You know, 2 of them have taken it, and 2 have gone their own way. So my youngest is 18 years old. He just started his first year of FIT.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So my oldest is moving into an apartment with her new boyfriend. But that's a good thing. It's a good thing.
No. The only reason I'm laughing is because I refuse to believe that you're not as old as you're depicting yourself to be. I don't know what kind of skin regimen you're doing, man, but you look like you're a little bit younger than I am.
Oh, thank you. No, I wasn't. Listen, once again, Jace, that's one thing that during this journey I've started doing a little bit more of self-care and taking care of myself and not feeling guilty for buying this stuff for myself or buying that stuff when I know my kids are going to need this or my kids are going to need that. So one of the things, you always got to take care of yourself.
Right.
That's one of the things that I've learned.
You know, and it's kind of what I learned too, because, you know, to have a little fun with it. I'm now a man that appreciates a good mani-pedi. When back then I used to think that shit was gay or something, but no. But now,
is that me or is that
no, that's shout out to Mina Mendoza from the Mina Mendoza show. That's her sound bite.
Because I say that all the time.
I know, yeah. But no, that's for Mina. Shout out to Mina. But no, but that, again, breaking these generational things and people that these things that we thought that were taboo. You know, there were certain things like, you know, one of the things that kind of bothers me now, and I know this is what kids are now saying, is like, if I say something that even is remotely homoerotic, and they'll be like, yo, pause. Like, don't even give me that pause shit, all right? I'm comfortable in my own skin.
Right.
Fuck your pause, okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know what? Yes. And I have that embedded in me.
Right.
So it's like, I agree with you, but force of habit, you know? Like 90s, like that was like, pause. Like, pause. Like, it's almost automatic. And I'm just like, pause. Like, when I say things.
Right.
Like, and it doesn't even have to be like, you know, anywhere in the realm of, you know, homosexuality or whatever it may be. It just sexual. And I'm just like, pause. Now I just say pause all the time. It's like, you know.
Wow. But going back to you, Jay, though, I just wanted to ask you, so did you realize that when you were growing up, especially like maybe in your teenage years, when you're growing up to be a young man and so on and so forth, would you feel like, because you went through before, whether past traumas, peaks and valleys, whatever, were you more of the aggressive type or were you more of the non-confrontational type? Because either way can be unhealthy.
I was a little bit more aggressive than I was passive. You know what I mean? So, but those experience. I grew up in Brooklyn.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I couldn't be passive. You know what I mean? If I was passive, I would have got eaten alive.
Yeah, it's
especially being especially being a light-skinned, green-eyed dude in Brooklyn. You know what I mean? It wasn't. You know, I was fighting in school every day. You know what I mean? I was fighting in school every day. So that's how I came up.
What would be the basis of those fights, if you don't mind me asking? Like, were you provoked, or was it something that you feel like you had to stand your ground to make sure that you were like, you know, not to be fucked with?
I had to stand my ground to be sure I wasn't fucked with. That I had to every day.
Right.
After a while, it stopped. You know what I mean? But I wasn't. I was not running from any confrontation.
Right.
I wasn't running from any confrontation, and I've always been that way. Even as I've gotten older, just confrontational in a different way. You know, it may not have been physical. You know, it could have been mental. It could have been anything strategic.
Right. And there's been moments where I felt like that as well. And there also has been moments where I've been able to be humbled, and because that's when I know I was being way too aggressive. Was there a time in your life where there was that one humbling experience where like, okay, I need to slow this down a bit?
Oh yeah, definitely. I can't really talk about it on the air, but yeah.
Well, I guess maybe give an example, like not really pinning you.
I had a friend of mine who was someone who we looked up in the neighborhood.
Okay.
And as I got older, you know, I got stronger, and it was like the old lion versus the new lion, and you know, I had to.
You had to do what you had to do.
I had to stand on business.
Right.
You know, so, and that was it. Like that's one time where I was taken aback. Like, you know.
Did you feel like you were showing a lot more maturity and growth before or after you became a father?
After I became a father, but even before, because I had a plan. I was young, so I had a plan. We put the plan into place and made sure everything was good. But afterwards, I was a lot more responsible.
Right. And that's something that I think about myself as well, too, because I'm a pretty mature person, especially considering how I used to be back then. But I know that I'm a guy that still hasn't got it all figured out. You know, I'm still kind of relatively young, but I feel like if there ever were to come a time where I have my first child or twins, whatever the case may be, I would be in for a rude awakening and realize like, holy shit, I have a lot more left in the tank, and I don't know if I'm going to be prepared for it all. And I know that I've every person that I've spoken to at the beginning of parenthood, they pretty much say you pretty much figure it out as you go along. There's no real handbook to teach you how to be the best parent possible. You just kind of like have to go with the flow. You're going to go through the ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys, but that's really, life is the biggest teacher as far as father or parenthood is concerned.
100%. The best thing you can do as a parent is, you're not going to be able to guide them every single step of the way. But the thing is, you have to instill your values and your morals and teach decision making. Decision making is a skill. So one of the exercises I used to do with my kids, I would give them 3 different choices. Here, which one do you want? At a very early age. Those are the little things that you can do for your child. You know what I mean? Teach them values, decision making. So when they do get into that point where they're going to have to make a decision, because you're not going to be there for them all the time, and they're going to make mistakes, and you're going to make mistakes as a parent. I'm still evolving as a dad. I just had an argument with my daughter the other day. We were going back and forth on the phone. You know what I mean? So every day you're going to learn, and every day you're going to try to be better.
Yeah. Starborn, let me ask you a question. We obviously know that there was a time where talking about this kind of subject was like really kind of taboo and something that you kind of kept behind closed doors and just don't really bring to the masses and don't bring people your shit about this. Now the script is flipped, and now everybody wants to talk about this. Why do you think that people are more prevalent and open about talking about this stuff more than we were afraid to back then?
About mental health or narcissism?
Both. I mean, it seems like everything is all. It's okay. It seems like everything is all out on the table now.
I think the world is kind of fed up collectively. Think about it. You know, like I think, you know, in America, right? Because we're in America.
Right.
It's like we just keep in my eyes, in my perception, we keep regressing. So it's just like, what the fuck is there to lose? Like it's at some point, it's like, look at the world, you know what I mean? And you start seeing patterns, I feel, you know? And it's kind of like we're humans. And it sucks because half the shit that we think it's just us going through, everybody else is going through it too, boo. You're not alone. So it's kind of like you start seeing that. And, you know, I always say, in order for me to recognize something in you, I must first know myself, because I have to realize it in me first. And I think initially, you know, we stay in our heads and we're like, fudge, I'm going through this, right? But then we know what that looks like when we start seeing it in other people. And it's like, oh, shit. Oh. And also because, you know, I think that it's the media. I think everything, every trend, everything, it all starts in the media, you know? It's cool now to have a therapist. That's the thing. Before, it wasn't. Now it's cool.
It's even cool to study psychology.
Yes,
to be a therapist,
it's like the thing now. You know what I mean? Before, like, you know, you used to hear the word vegan and you were like, what the fuck is that? You know? And now everything is fucking vegan. So it's all, you know, unfortunately, mental health has become a trend more than an awareness. And I feel like those that honestly do go through mental issues, shout outs to you, because y'all are all strong. And I'm including myself in that because I go through shit also. I mean, I think that healing is not linear. It's a forever thing. As long as you have breath, you're going to keep healing because you're going to keep living through different experiences. And it's not making those bad thoughts or bad emotions or bad feelings or whatever negativity disappear, because sometimes the things that we go through, they don't fucking disappear. Those memories, it's not like you're gonna wake up with amnesia one day. It's learning how to live with it without having it affect your everyday life and without you bleeding on people that didn't even fucking cut you.
Right. And you just said something that was the reason why I asked that question in the first place. Because I'll ask you, Jay, and then you could jump in, Rain, if you want to. Do you feel like now more than ever, because it has become a big topic of discussion, do you think that now there's a lot of blurred lines where people are using their quote unquote mental illness as an excuse for their behavior?
No, I don't. Wow, that's a good question.
It is.
That is a very good question. Honestly, I really can't answer that question. I can't, because right now I'm really focused on myself. That's who am I to judge anybody else's behavior? You know, at this point in my life, the first person I look at is myself. If I can't be critical of myself or analyze my own feelings or have the emotional intelligence to understand the way that I'm feeling right now before I act or before I do something, then we need to keep improving and we need to get better.
Yeah. And I love that you said that. And a round of applause real quick if you can for Jay here. And that's a great point that you bring that up. One of the biggest gems of the show so far. But the reason I bring that up is because I have actually known certain people, whether it was colleagues, family members, old friendships from back in the day. They would kind of use that as an excuse. Like they'll say, they'll just, I don't want to put anybody on blast, but it's more like they're using their issue that they have, quote unquote, as an excuse to validate their behavior and how they go about, and not just think that it's okay for people to just excuse their behavior just because of what their self-diagnosis is. And I think that's happening more and more. And to me, that's actually the trait of a narcissist, because their part of their charm is to alter your reality. And they're so fucking good at it that you end up believing it. And I feel like because this has become a big topic of discussion, it's great in so many ways, but there are some people that are using it for their own advantage. And I personally have seen this. Now, I could be wrong about it. I don't have any concrete evidence, but I think it's just, something to worry about and, figure out on your own, depending on your situations.
I've experienced that with like family members and friends. People will use what they go through as an excuse, and it's kind of like ridiculous. I think that at a certain age, we need to start holding ourselves accountable, whether that means I need to go get help or, okay, I shouldn't act this way because I keep getting the same results and it's not working out, like you mentioned earlier. You know what I mean? But accountability. Really,
And I also think that one of the things that people get misconstrued, especially when it comes to looking for help, is that they think that it's a cure-all. I know people that have actually sought professional help, and then they're doing really good, and then they figure, oh, okay, I'm all good, I'm all cured, I don't need to go anymore, now I can just live life. No, you have to keep on doing this. It's no different than going to the gym and working out. If you go hard in the gym and you're getting all diesel and everything like that, you're gonna look great, but the moment you stop going to the gym, the more you're gonna revert back to your old self. So it's something that has to be kept on going. I know guys that have been seeking professional for 17 years, and it's needed because that's what they need to do. It's become routine and it's beneficial for them. There was never in their moment where they thought that, all right, now's enough. I think I'm good. I'm just going to go about my day and live the best life I can. doesn't work that way. And I think that people seem to get that misconstrued a lot in this day and age.
Also, healthcare is expensive.
Yeah, we want to go that route too. Absolutely.
I mean,
I think
it's the facts.
I think it's very shameless that, like, in order to get the help you need, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg that you don't have.
It's insane.
Right. But that's why you have to find out your other routes to do it, because nothing wrong with getting professional help, but if you can't afford it, listen, do I love Ferraris? Yes, I do, but I can't afford one right now. But I have a car that can get me from A to B, which is the point of a Ferrari anyway. Right. So I'm all good.
Exactly. Good. There you go.
Yeah. So as far as like as far as you two are concerned, if I may bring this subject up, I understand that you guys known each other for a very long time. There was even a moment where you guys had to go your separate ways, but then life pretty much brought you guys back together. What can you tell me about the beginning of you guys' relationship and how you see yourself different now than you guys were back then?
Go ahead.
Ladies first.
Ladies first.
Ladies first. He's such a gentleman.
Well, okay. Well, you know, I think I've mentioned this before. This is the first man I've ever been in love with. Aww. My first love. So, thanks, Marv.
Nashi.
And, you know, I am a person that I'm an Aquarius. I can only love like one person. And I've been after him, obviously, I was in other relationships, but I was never in love because I just never, it would get to a certain extent and then I would be like, okay, enough. And, you know, I was always the one in the group, like, that never cried or nothing. Like, never really, because I never really gave a fuck. So, and I know that sounds cold, but you have to be honest with yourself. And that was was the journey.
That's your accountability right there.
That's where the fuck it was at the time, you know? So, life, I think when something is meant to be, it doesn't matter what you do, who comes across to dismantle it, who throws bad juju on it, it really doesn't matter. Love is the most powerful force, and somehow life just kept trying to pull us back together until we were like, you know what? Let's do it. And I am the happiest. I feel he's the happiest because he says it to me all the fucking time. And I just like, I am really, really happy.
I could tell. Because, and I definitely know that because we became friends before he came back into the picture. And you were fine. You were fine just the way you were. You know, you were still doing what you had to do to, you know, to better yourself. But there's definitely a difference in the happiness. Like, you were good back then, but now it's like fireworks are popping off now. It's like you went. It's like you went from Christmas to the 4th of July.
Yeah. I couldn't. He's my home.
Oh, I love that. Shooting it back to you, Jay. Like, how do you feel like you've grown compared to how you guys were in the beginning to where you are now?
Timing is everything. You know what I mean? You know, in the beginning, I wasn't ready. She wasn't ready. You know, so we passed from time to time, but your experiences start dictating where you're gonna go, and you start looking at situations that you're in, and then you're looking at situations that you were in. If that makes any sense, because now I'm going off on a tangent, but
no, please.
But the bottom line is, when you appreciate something or you come to appreciate something, that's when you know that everything is right. You know, when I'm not just talking about appreciating the person that you're with, appreciating the person who they make you or they help you evolve into. You know what I mean? And it's about constant growth. It's not about being stagnant. It's about understanding, consideration, having conversations, understanding when I'm not in the mood, or give me my space. And when you have those things and you have that synergy, it's a beautiful thing.
Right. And I commend you guys as far as your relationship is concerned, because there may be some people out there that based on their own experiences, that they think that what you guys are doing is considered a red flag. And what I mean by that is there are people that are very, very strong in their beliefs of never going back to what was once before. You know, like they always, the saying goes for them, an ex is going to be an ex for a reason. But, you know, I think that's also kind of immature and incorrect, because sometimes you need to grow. I mean, who knows to say that if there was somebody back then that I was with before, and then afterwards we meet each other 20, 30 years later, that we're completely different human beings, and maybe there could be some appreciation there that wasn't there before, you know?
Absolutely.
So,
people evolve
you know,
all the time, so that's a ridiculous
exactly.
statement.
But I just think that when people kind of have that mindset, it just feels like, to me, they're being stubborn about it, but that also goes to show that there's a lot of healing that needs to be done behind closed doors. Because if they feel that way towards somebody, who's to say that they won't feel towards that the next person?
Right.
That's fact. That is a fact.
I read this thing one time that said, if you start looking at people as energy, you'll never look at the human race the same ever again. So one of the things that you said earlier about, you know, when someone else is giving you, like, using their mental illness as an excuse, and they're not holding themselves accountable. When you just start looking at people as energy, and that kind of energy you don't want around you, all you gotta do is just back up. And then you have those people who their energy is just magnetic, and it's just a reciprocation of energy.
Right.
And that energy fills you up, and that's and you know what? That's what being in love is about.
Are you saying that about me?
Yeah,
He's looking right at you.
I'm thinking about you. But those are some of the things where you're in a space with someone and they make you feel comfortable about being who you are, whether you're weak in that moment or strong in that moment. And
That's love.
as men, like, listen, it was very fucking hard for me to admit that I was a victim of a narcissist. That I look at the shit, I look back and I'm like, yo, how did you fall for that? Like, how did you let that happen?
Yeah.
So you get mad at yourself. And you like, and that's the hardest thing. And that's the hardest thing, when you walk away and you let them come back, because they use that love bombing and try to play on your guilt. And those are the things, it's hard. That's why it's hard for men to admit that, you know what, I was abused. I was this, I was that. Because I used to justify and make excuses. Oh, she's a Latina. That's how they get when they get mad, or whatever. You know, you do things like that. But when you, and how her and I got together, when you have not given someone the energy or the opportunity to be in your life, you know, you were always passing. It was just, or you tried, it just didn't work that time. Or you're just not ready mentally,
right.
You know what I mean? Or emotionally. And then it comes a time where once again, you feel that you're in that space. It's about timing. This is what I want. This is what I'm looking for. And then at that point right there, you just don't fuck it up. Excuse my language.
No, you're good.
Exactly.
Yeah. What I think also is interesting about the dynamic between you two, and I could be wrong about this, and I apologize if I am, but it's almost a little bit, I get kind of the sense that a little bit of opposites attract. And what I mean by that is, like, you guys have your certain beliefs or way of mindsets, because like, I know you as this extremely spiritual person and so on and so forth, and you may be that way too, Jay, but that's not the vibe that I get off right away. Maybe it is when you get to know you, but that's initially not what I got from you initially. But it's interesting to see the dynamic between y'all, where there is some differences. I'm sure you guys have a lot of similarities, but there are some differences, like that perfect blend of yin and yang between y'all that really makes this work.
Yeah.
That's a very good observation, because she's the one who's always like the helium balloon, you know what I mean? And I have to, and I got to keep her grounded, you know. And there's times where I'm sinking, and she'll use that energy to pull me up, you know. It's just like I said earlier. It's a reciprocal energy, and I've never been in a relationship like that before. It's always been just, okay, the relationship, they always just say a relationship is always not going to be 80-20, or it's going to be 50-50, or it's going to be 60-40. I don't believe in that.
Right. And sticking back with the subject of mental health for a second, and also mixing in as far as like relationships are concerned, excuse me, there's a lot of people out there that are single and unhappy, And a lot of it is because they feel like they have to be in a relationship or be with somebody in order to be the best version of themselves, when in actuality, and this is something that I've had to learn on my own, is it's better to take care of yourself first and heal yourself first and love yourself before you can welcome anybody else in. But we still have this misconception of people need to find their person, quote unquote, in order to feel whole again and be able to, heal and love themselves and so on and so forth. But maybe it works for some people, but ultimately I think it's counterproductive because it's false hope. And I just wanted to see if you guys can give your take on that.
I think it depends on the relationship you have with that person and the person that you are. It really changes. When it comes to love, it's not something, you can't generalize love. Love is extremely way too big and way too powerful for humans to minute it to, generalizing and saying, okay, well, if you do this, it's not love. You know what love is because you are love, and how you love is your love, and that's what the fuck you're gonna find in somebody else because it's gonna correlate with how you love. And this is just as simple. Don't get with somebody and then try to change them because it never works. Find somebody that aligns with your truth, that has, that you share, that you have those similarities that you could like grow with and everything. When you the fact that you said you have to heal first, healing is linear. You're never going to stop healing. So I don't really believe in the, some people do need time before they get into another relationship.
Sure.
Sometimes there's a person that comes into their lives that helps them heal. And and that's when it depends on, what makes you comfortable.
Well, I think what I mean by when they feel that people have to feel they have to be in a relationship in order to heal themselves, it's almost like forcing it. You're forcing yourself to heal as opposed to just letting it naturally grow. Exactly. And I think that's why we have a lot of messy breakups nowadays. And I think that social media or even dating apps in general make it worse because now those devices and those platforms has made us feel like we have options. Instead of working things out and working on ourselves, we figure, oh, well, this person didn't check all the boxes. I got to go find the other person that's going to check all those boxes.
Let me go buy a new one. It's
right, yeah. You want the shiny new toy.
Yeah, it's like humans are now like, oh, let me go, I think in the old days there was a phrase like, people break up so easily now because back in the day, people used to fix things instead of throwing them away. And I mean, I'm old school. To me, I believe you have one love. And I believe that when you say you love somebody, you stick with that person and you go through it. Love is a choice. It's a choice you make every single day.
Jay, what are some of the things that you noticed about Rain that has shown her actual growth when she came back the second time around?
There's a lot. I'm just trying to think because there would be things where I would point out to her because at this point right here I'm like, look, I'm more concerned. I'm gonna take care of myself and I'm going to make sure that I'm happy. So if she would do something that there was nothing wrong, but I just didn't like it, I would bring it up to her very respectfully and then she wouldn't do it anymore. That just showed me that she was considerate of my feelings. And I didn't experience that for quite some time. So experiencing that type of respect and consideration, those are one of the things that I was like, okay. So basically, the way the shit happened was funny. She just came over to my house. We were just. It was no talk about her moving in. She hardly had her stuff there. I think she was there for like a week or two. I gave her a draw, and she just never left. And she just never left. And not because I didn't want her to. I didn't want her to leave. You know what I mean? And she didn't want to leave. And it wasn't like something we planned. We was just taking day by day.
It's the longest sleepover in history.
But there's it's a lot of things. She's a unicorn. You know what I mean? She's a unicorn. But I just think people are ready to break up real quick nowadays because that's just I just think that's the generation that we live in now. When my parents were growing up or your parents were growing up, you were supposed to get married, settle down, have some kids, whatever. Now these kids today, they're not getting married they're not getting married when they're young. They're getting married when they're older. The men are starting to realize, because they've learned from their dads, don't get married. I told my kids, don't get married, don't have any kids. So, live your life, enjoy your life. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I was also going to say real quick, God, I can't believe I lost my train of thought here. I don't know why this is happening to me. I'm usually just on point. But it was, I think I wanted to go back as far as like with the mental health discussion as well.
Okay.
Okay, I got it now. So ever since, so 3 years ago, almost to this day, is when I started doing the show. And then in between then, from back then when I started the show to now, I've been doing a lot of things to keep myself busy and build my brand and so on and so forth. But there was a conversation that I heard recently, not one that I was having, but one I heard from afar recently, where, there's a person that has become extremely successful, where they're doing this and they're doing that and they're making a good name for themselves. And one of the ironic things about that is that they kept grinding and they kept on staying busy and doing this and doing that, is to try to prove themselves, and they're never going to be satisfied that I don't feel like I did a great enough job. I feel like I got to keep on going, keep on getting harder to be satisfied and be happy with what I'm doing. And it's a constant battle within them to, it's ironic how they feel like they're still not good enough in their own head, and that's why they continue to grind and hard and, put out all this content and work their ass off and so on and so forth, because in their head it's just never going to be enough. And I was like, I think that's me. I think that's me. I think one of the reasons why I've been working so much, do I enjoy it? Absolutely. I love everything that I've been doing. I'm having the time of my life. But I think the foundation and the method behind the madness is me thinking in the back of my head, like, this is not good enough. I'm not happy with what I'm doing, and I need to keep on going. And I wonder if that satisfaction is ever going to come. So it's kind of a double-edged sword where, I'm staying consistent because, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I think I'm one of the most consistent podcasters out there in the universe. But I think a method to that is that I still don't feel like I'm able to still reach my full potential, and I got to keep on going harder. And I'm pretty sure that there's other people that feel that way, or they are feeling that way. They just haven't recognized it yet.
That's valid. I found myself feeling that way.
Really?
But also, I don't know if you can say that could be a little bit of like imposter syndrome.
It definitely is. One of the things that I've been very honest
and
about.
That's something that, I struggle with like a lot as an artist. So I definitely get where you're coming from. Right.
One of the things that I am not I'm not ashamed to admit, and it's not exactly a glowing quality of mine, but it is part of me nonetheless, is imposter syndrome and guilt complex. And that's going back to the whole narcissism thing of dealing with people that have those traits, because they will find that weakness, if you want to call it that, my guilt complex, and they'll turn it up to level 10 and then for their own benefit. I feel like that's something that you've been through indirectly, and it's something that came to light much later on. Like, it didn't click in your head until it came after the fact.
100%. It didn't come to me till after the relationship was already over. When I went back and I looked at text messages that I was sending, you're selfish. The only person you care about is yourself. This, that, and then start doing research on narcissism, finding out exactly what it is, and then you go through the embarrassment stage. Like, you're embarrassed by it. You don't even want anyone to know half the shit that was done to you, And then there's the abuse, physical abuse. I'm talking about like throwing shit, breaking shit in the house, all types of stuff. And the first thing I had to do is forgive myself. Like, forgive myself. Like, it wasn't my fault. The only thing you try to do is be as a good dude, Yeah. But to sit there and call yourself a victim, that was the hardest thing. The hardest thing for me to sit there and call myself a victim. Like, I was a victim. None of us want to be victims.
No. And then also you have to be careful, because there's people that'll blur the lines where they'll use the term of a victim as, again, an excuse for their behavior or why they're the way they are. And while I have a little bit of sympathy that they feel that way, at the end of the day, it's up to them to fucking change the narrative. You know, I'll have sympathy for a person if they're going through something, but I can't keep that sympathy going if they're not going to do something about it.
Right.
And that includes myself as well. You know, that's me going back to me holding myself accountable for the shit that I've done. And this is where I've had to really balance out where I had to take accountability and also not let my guilt complex, take over. And what I mean by that is there could be something that happened to me back then where I realized that part of the reason why things fell through was because it was my fault in the sense that I allowed it to get to that point where I allowed people to talk to me the way that they did and not be confrontational about it and just thinking like, you know, I'm not sticking up for myself.
Right.
I'm not sticking up for myself, and ultimately that bad behavior of the other person is going to get way overblown to the point where I will implode or explode on a person, and then afterwards I'm the bad guy.
You're the bad guy.
Yeah, it's something that I've had to learn through a lot of actions. Life has been the biggest teacher as far as that's concerned. Now that I've been able to recognize that, my next step and kind of what I'm going through is to realize that, you know, take the accountability, but don't take the blame for everything.
Yep. Oof, that's a good one. Take the accountability and not the blame.
That is good.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and I just wanted to bring that up because I feel like if there's anybody that's watching or listening to this right now, maybe that could be a light bulb that can go off in their head and they think, yeah, I think that's the truth. I feel that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that, man.
I like that.
Be accountable, but don't
take the blame.
Yeah,
Take
don't
accountability and don't take the blame.
I like
Right.
that.
That's bars right there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hype myself up, and you know that's something that
resonated.
that's also something
Jason,
that I had
I
to.
might put that in a poem. Chill out.
Yeah, you have my permission.
Thank you.
No, but that, again, that's
Witnessed.
also, but again, that's also something that I've had to be okay with teaching myself is, you know, being able to celebrate my victories, you know, like I want to be able to celebrate my victories and not make it seem that I'm being egotistical about it, you know? And one of the things that I had to learn is I don't care. I don't need to care what anybody else thinks. If somebody thinks that me celebrating my victories is bragging or being egotistical, let them think that. Because why should I care about what they're thinking to actually validate it?
Right.
Because one person that thinks that I'm being a fucking cocky little shit, I'll have like 10 of Starborns and Jays that'll think that, no, celebrate your shit, man. You did that.
Yeah, they weren't with you shooting at the gym. The hell? You can't say shit.
We're
like
just dropping bar after bar on this.
Yo.
Well, listen, guys, we're kind of pressed for time here. It's amazing when we have these kind of conversations that time just goes by and we
I
can
know.
go over hours
Wait,
and
we were
hours.
here for an hour?
Almost, yeah.
That's crazy.
That's crazy,
awesome.
yeah. But I'm really glad. Obviously, Starborn, I'm glad anytime you and I link up and do the show. You're one of my favorite people to have on the show, and the audience agrees. They love having you on here. Jay, I think that you're a salt of the earth guy. I think that you could be a prime example for men that have been through the fire and go through what you've gone through and be able to come out on top. And I'm just glad to see relationships like yours because I will, and not to be like, fuck it, I'll just say it. I think that the relationship that you guys have is going to give hope for other people out there that are looking for what you guys have. Actions speak louder than words, and right now you guys are the actions.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Right, yeah.
And thank you for having me on, allowing me to talk. And I think this was another huge step in my healing phase. So I appreciate you.
No problem, bro. Like I said, when I saw that on social media, I felt like, I don't know, I could be wrong, but this looks like a guy that he just needs somebody to talk to from a guy's perspective. And you're here.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Thank you. I appreciate
I'm glad that I was able to provide that for you, man.
Thank you.
So let's get into some little fun here. I mean, you've been through this before, so now I'm going to put him through the ringer.
Yes, it's your turn.
Yeah, and I want to know how this is going to go because, to my understanding, when she was on the show last time and I put her through this and that, you were actually trying to see how much you would get right behind the glass.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I think you got them all right except
No,
one.
I did them all right. Oh god.
No, you got one wrong. You said Nikes. She was actually thinking Adidas.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, you know.
Hey, you got a good memory, man.
He does.
It's narcissism at its finest. Watching my own shows. I'm just kidding. Tongue in cheek.
That was good.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time for everybody's favorite segment on First Class, Second Place. This is this or that. If you've never seen the show before, what happens is this is inspired off Black Sheeps. You can get with this, you can get with that. Multiple choice questions. It's not the SATs. Don't think too hard on it. It's just the fun way to end things. I call this the dessert portion of the meal, the course meal right here. So, all right. so Starborn, you just sit back and enjoy yourself. And Jay, let's get ready with this or that. You ready, my man?
I'm ready.
You ready, Mr. Engineer? Yeah, he's ready. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, for this or that, you, Mr. J, playlist or podcast?
Podcast.
Okay. Slides or Crocs?
Slides.
Beach or pool?
Pool.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Instagram or TikTok?
TikTok.
To give or to receive?
To give.
Introvert or extrovert?
I'm an extrovert.
Okay. Batman or Superman?
Superman.
Glass half empty or glass half full?
Glass half full.
Would you rather be embarrassed or be afraid?
Be embarrassed.
Okay. Would you rather be too hot or be too cold?
I'd rather be too cold.
Do you prefer the window seat or the aisle seat?
I'll take a window seat.
Okay. Book smart or street smart?
Both.
Reading or writing?
Reading.
Ice water or room temperature?
Room temperature.
Drake or Kendrick Lamar?
Kendrick Lamar.
Nas or Jay-Z?
Nas.
Steven Spielberg or James Cameron?
I gotta take Steven Spielberg.
All right. And finally, teamwork or solo project?
Teamwork.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this or that. That is going to do it for this episode of First Class, Second Place. Thank you so much for tuning in. That's Starborn. That's Jay Yarber. Anybody you guys want to give a shout out to before we close out?
I want to shout out Ash. Ash, what's up? I want to shout out Cynthia, and I want to shout out my sisters.
Oh,
That's it.
all right.
I don't want to shout out anybody.
Shout out to yourself, bro. For
Shout
coming
out
on
to
the
myself.
episode. All right. So, where can they find you on social media again, Starborn?
Starborn with 3 N's and an underscore for Instagram.
And I don't know if you want to share your social media. You want to keep that exclusively?
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. That's cool. But brother, thank you so much for coming through here. I really appreciate you coming through. Thank you so much for the support as well, man. I really appreciate your kind words because as much as I think that I've been able to help you out here, I want to say that your words actually meant a lot to me, especially since back then you didn't know me from a can of paint, and you just showed me a lot more love and respect than any person that has ever really shown me from a personal standpoint. You know, you were basically just a stranger at one point, but your words meant the world to me, so I want to thank you personally for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming through. This is so much fun. And ladies and gentlemen, you can find me at I am Jason Enrique on all social media platforms. Don't forget to like, subscribe on YouTube at Jason Enrique. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next week. This has been the First Class, Second Place podcast. We out.